2, 1.
I want a $10,000 a night hooker!
Hey everyone, it is Thursday, June 29th. My name's Bobby Frankenberger, and you're listening to episode 21 of the Sixth World Podcast. The executive producer for today's episode is James O'Neill. Thanks for supporting the show, James. You are amazing. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, the one, the only, Cassie Levitt. How's it going, Cassie?
What's up, man? Your voice, is this me? His audio all quiet.
Yeah, his audio's pretty quiet.
Your audio's out quiet. All your testing and stuff or not, man.
Nope, because everybody on the podcast is hearing it great. You guys are just hearing it a little quiet there. I bumped it up a little bit.
Hey, that works. That
All
works.
right.
As long as everyone else can hear it.
Yes. So, Cassie, we're back from Origins. We survived.
Were we supposed to stay there?
No,
Get the memo.
I'm just saying we got
were
back.
Come home, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were supposed to come back. You're right about that. But we made it back alive.
Columbus was nice.
It was a harrowing journey. Columbus was not nice. Maybe I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. No, I had a delightful time in Columbus.
I had a great time, but before we get into that, let's introduce our guest today. He's a brilliant host of the brilliant Twitch channel called Join the Anarchy, live stream Shadowrun game, which mixes Shadowrun Anarchy with Whose Line Is It Anyway? They invite a new guest player every episode to join them and roleplay with them, all the while taking input from the audience on how things will play out. You watch that show and you take part in how their campaign goes. It's all Shadowrun Anarchy. It's amazing. Welcome Ozzkore to the show, Oz. How's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm feeling good. Despite us starting a couple minutes late because I'm so scattered.
Can't always be perfect.
But I can try, and I always do try. So you were at Origins as well.
Yes, I was, and I got to meet both of you, which was exciting.
Amazing is
went
what
out-
I would call it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and I got to hang out with you guys, watch the Sixth World Podcast, the previous episode, and tape down some chords for you.
Yeah, you were an excellent stagehand, helping us set up for that. No, seriously though, we couldn't. It was hectic putting that all together. There was a lot of stuff to do, and we couldn't have done it as easily as we did without your help. But that's not why you're here tonight.
Nope.
I didn't ask you to set up anything, did I?
No.
I guess it depends on how you interpret that, right?
Yeah.
But you're here tonight to talk to us about Shadowrun, to have fun talking about Shadowrun, because we're back from Origins. What was your favorite part of Origins, Oz?
Definitely meeting everybody. I got to meet not only a bunch of Shadowrun podcasters, but I also got to meet the people that I play with regularly online, which I've been playing with for, I want to say like 8-9 years now, and I finally met them for the first time. So
that's
it was
amazing.
Great. It was exciting. Yeah.
That's always really
so
super
it was nice
fun.
to,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool to reconnect, and it was also really cool to play Shadowrun missions for the first time and see what that's like.
Oh, that was your first time?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to play 2 games, so I bookended the season 8. So I did I did episode 1 and I did episode 6.
Yeah, we're gonna be. I want to talk. I would love to talk about those because the story is cool, but I don't think we should because people will probably be playing the same season in Gen Con. Don't want to spoil that for people because it's a pretty fun. It's like they're ending. We talked about it I think last time. They're ending the Chicago storyline. So.
Yeah. And not only are they ending the Chicago storyline, they're basically polling everybody, all the game masters, to find out what happened in their games, and the majority is going to determine the fate of Chicago.
Yeah.
So
This will be the canon ending for the next whenever the next Chicago update comes out for
and
the
that's
story.
The cool thing. Yeah, that's the cool thing about missions in general is that's what they do at the end of a season. They get all that information and they take pieces from it that everybody did like collectively and make it canon, like, and it impacts the storyline. That's all. I think that's so cool how they do that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Even if you end up doing a storyline that's different than like what gets picked, I just love the idea that they always keep that Shadowrunners vague, so it could have been you, right? Like,
yeah, it's that classic thing that in the canon it's like, and then a group of Shadowrunners came and
yeah, it's always just a group of Shadowrunners.
yeah, and you're like, that was me.
I mean, I heard your game was really epic. It was way more epic than mine was.
I think, yeah. So I played with Damien and his wife Katie. I know Damien is in the Twitch chat right now, and I want to say hi to the Twitch chat. Hey, everybody. Damien played with me and his wife Katie. It was a blast. So I made this face character who was really cool, and I loved the face. She was like a Southern Belle face, but I had all these opportunities and all these moments where I was like, okay, we're gonna handle this the nice way, right? We're gonna try to do this the right way and talk our way out of it. But Damien and Katie were playing ex-Halloweener gangers, and they built their characters like combat monsters. All right, and they roll like you might think that there's no way to role play in that situation. You're just like throwing dice and trying to, but no, they role played it to the teeth, like that they have one tool, and that tool is the solution to everything.
Chaos.
Yeah, we got pulled over by some Lone Star, and my character was like, "All right, now listen, just give me a chance to talk to these people. We're gonna see what we can do, and just stay in the van, and this will go well." So she gets out and she's like, "All right, hey officers, what's the problem here?" And then bam, next thing I hear is like a gunshot, and one of the Lone Star officers go down, and like, all right, here we go, I guess.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got to play at a table with them too, and it was really fun.
Yeah, and actually, I think we're going to talk a little bit about that playstyle later, because our topic today is about role playing, and I know I have a question I want to ask you guys during our conversation about some things that I thought about while I was at the table with them and role playing. So I won't ruin that now. We'll talk about it in a minute. It has to do with how you might influence or how your style impacts other people that are at the table. But anyway, Cassie, how have things been going since like you got back from Origins Fine? Any exciting Shadowrun you've been playing or anything?
No, actually, I did one impromptu that's not worth, I shouldn't mention, and no, I have not. But I have a 2-part Prime run that will go both Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So cool. I'm preparing for that. We're doing Holy Piece of Wet Work, which is a missions Prime run.
Nice.
It looks fun. We're gonna go to the metaplane of the Shadem and kill a Shadem.
I have not been thinking a whole lot about Shadowrun in particular since Origins either. It's been so hard for me to get back on my feet with work, with the stuff we do here, with the Shadowcasters Network, which we just announced and we're going to talk about in a minute. But it's been hard. Also, this week, my oldest daughter, who's 4 years old, she went to summer camp at the zoo. And she was super excited about that.
So I fully realize that they're going to the zoo and learning things and whatnot, but my first thought was 100% they are now submitted to the zoo for the summer. Like, they've just put them in their own little natural habitat. These are small children, human children, in their natural habitat. It's just a ball pit, right? Like...
Yeah, and here we have the human child.
It was the human child.
Yeah. No, she's it's
Scream.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of Faster Light with aliens. All right, that's a thing that you could run into.
Right. It's like a zoo for visiting aliens. You're right. It's actually been really weird because Zoe's not in like public school or daycare or anything. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I'm with her all day. So this is like the first time that she's been to anything like this. So there was like, it's weird to be going and picking her up and everything, and she's bringing crafts home, and she's loved it though. So that's been my whole week. So that's all I have to talk about.
Well, and we can't forget to mention the Steam Summer Sale. I mean, how many people have not lost hours and hours to get to that?
This is the first, believe it or not, this is the first year that I haven't spent loads of money on it, because I just know I haven't played video games in like 3 months.
That's that's not part of Steam. Playing video games is merely a small portion of the
Well,
actual thing.
fair enough.
Collecting as many
Fair enough.
video games as
Well,
you
this
can,
is no
that you
because
will
this
then
is
never
a,
play.
That's a fair point, Cassie. That's an excellent point, and I have in the past over the Steam summer sales been too busy to play video games and still bought a ton of games. But I think this is the first. I think the point I'm making is that this is the first year I've successfully convinced myself not to spend the money this time.
Good.
So, Oz.
Yeah.
What
Usually I would spend the money, but my cat had dental surgery, so like the day I got back from Origins, I get home, I give my cat treats, and he like spits them all out because he can't eat them because his whatever. So anyway, that was really expensive. His mouth was trying to consume his own teeth.
Oh God.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Some weird genetic thing. I don't know. We couldn't have prevented it. Now I'm like 5,000 in the hole. So yeah. Well, 2,500. I spent it.
Sounds like the situation. I recently had a bike accident, and we're just starting to get bills from that.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome.
That must be delicious.
What about you in Shadowrun, Oz? What have you been doing in Shadowrun since Origins?
Well, we did Tales from the Stuffer Shack. Just recorded our second.
Okay. I
second
feel
session.
bad now, having forgot that we just did 2 days ago. Yes, we just recorded
Cassie's like,
that 2
I haven't
days
done
ago.
anything with Shadowrun.
I haven't done anything with Shadowrun. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so that one's a hard one. It's in the Shadowrun universe. We're playing Anarchy characters, but it doesn't super feel like Shadowrun in some
That's
ways
fair.
because we're
That's
not
fair.
doing Shadowruns. We're
Yeah,
we're
I'll
having
let
fun
you off the
it
hook
and
with
playing
that because that's
so-
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm preparing my tabletop group for the Renraku Arcology Shutdown story arc, which I'm going to be doing Anarchy
Ooh,
format.
that's cool. You're gonna have to tell me how that goes.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
But I think I heard you talking about this. You're converting it to Anarchy. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
so
tell me how
I
that
don't,
goes.
that way I don't have to like teach anybody how to play 3rd edition. We just play the Anarchy, quick, light,
Right.
fun, and we get to experience all of those like previous story arcs that everyone loves, but
That's brilliant.
I've never got to play. My
Yeah.
players have never had a chance
Holy
to play
cow,
it.
Oz, you've stumbled onto something amazing. That's a brilliant way to go back and experience old like Shadowrun lore.
Have you not converted
Catalyst
anything
notes.
from the last 30 years? Like, I ran Gross Cartels. Like, have you seriously,
No,
Bobby?
no,
Are you
Cassie.
just like whatever edition is? This
No,
is it
no, no,
right
no,
now.
no.
That's all I got.
Yeah, well, to answer your question, no, I never back convert anything. So no.
Okay. All
or
right, then,
or
yeah,
forward.
right.
But also, what I'm specifically saying is that I think Anarchy is a great
Okay.
way to experience that. It's almost like, because I just had this, it feels like to me, it would be like playing like a flashback cutscene in a video game where it doesn't really matter, like you're gonna succeed.
That's what I was gonna ask. Are you essentially making the Renraku Arcology happen in whatever your year is, but 2079, or are you like doing a flashback of like?
No, I'm
You're back.
doing a flashback. I'm
You do a
setting it
flashback?
all
Okay.
in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm setting it all in that timeline, and what I like about doing it Anarchy is that if I kill off those characters, big deal, because it's just a contained little arc, and then if we decide to do something else, then like another storyline somewhere in there, like Harlequin or whatever, just build a new set of characters, call it a day, and I don't really have to back convert anything. I just stick to the story and kind of estimate things.
Yeah, because I converted Ghost Cartels to 2079. The downside is when some of the arcs start really taking off, several people were like, man, like Knight Errant is really like gonna be in trouble for this one. I'm like, oh shit, that was Lone Star like 5 years ago. Like, so I actually kind of ended it at some point to be like, Knight Errant took care of it. They just solved the problem, and it's not a thing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you have to
well,
be careful with Shadowrun since it updates the story. Like,
yeah, that's true. All right, here we go.
World News Today.
Okay, so some news that I want to talk about. We're going to break something here. For the first time in Shadowrun's history, we're actually going to break something. Break news. We've broken plenty of things before. But we're going to do some breaking news here. I got permission to actually talk about this. So it was teased and talked about at Origins in like back channels, and I actually didn't even take it seriously because I thought it was a joke because it was not announced in the official way. But we found out that Catalyst has in the works an advanced combat book that they're calling, that the title right now is going to be called Street Lethal, an advanced combat book that's going to be coming out. From what I've been told, this is actually from Jason Hardy, the line developer for Shadowrunner. He told me that the book's called Street Lethal, and it'll have guns, info on corporate security, some unconventional fighting groups, and more. And he told me that we could tell people and get them excited about that if they're excited about that, or not excited about that. I know that some people would probably roll their eyes at that, and we could talk about that if you want. I don't want to spend too much time on the news, but maybe we'll keep it positive because we don't know what's coming yet. That's all that we know. So
I'm excited to hear that they mentioned maybe corporate security stuff. I'd love if they give better tools for kind of designing corporate security because it's all sort of there, but how you put the puzzle pieces together feels a little rough. Like
how to think like corporate security.
Wait, well, so some of that is even in there, but it's just like it's like I've got a toy box and here you go. It's like, oh, there's no directions. How do we
how do I play
Lego
with
set
this
together?
professionally?
Yeah. Like this might build like a Death Star, or it could build a Batmobile. We don't know. Here's Legos. Like.
So if anything, that's going to be cool because I'm also the kind of person who's like, I don't want to cobble together. I suck at creating NPCs. Let's just be honest. I suck at creating goons, but also since there's only one like corp security archetype, and they end up just feeling all the same. So that's pretty cool that they're going to be creating different ones.
Yeah, I'd love to see again some like stats for like Red Samurai or different like more specialized groups based on like different corps and stuff. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that would definitely be cool. The other piece of news that we have is, of course, we announced last week. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, it was live from Origins, and we announced on there that the Shadowcasters Network is launching. So just very briefly, because if you want to get more info, I actually would not necessarily direct you to our previous episode. I would actually direct you to an episode I just did with Cliff, or Mr. Johnson of the Arcology podcast. Listen to their last regular episode. I think it's called Special Announcement. I think you should have titled it Shadowcasters Network, so it would be easier for me to tell people to find it. But I'm just kidding, Cliff. You can do what you want. But a special announcement episode, we go into a lot of detail about the Shadowcasters Network there and what it is, and it's just a bunch of podcasters and content creators, YouTubers, Twitch streamers that are coming together to make awesome content in a very official, curated, hopefully high-quality way that we can bring you guys lots of cool stuff. Not just that, but there's some stuff about, guys, if you ever want to play Shadowrun missions online in an officially Catalyst Game Lab sanctioned way that where it counts and matters and your characters get credit and can be taken from live conventions to online play, we're creating a venue for that. First of its kind for Shadowrun. So really excited about that. But what I wanted to specifically talk about, and more specific, is that to get this thing off its feet, we are doing a fundraiser. We decided to go that route instead of like Patreon or a Kickstarter or something like that. We're just doing an old school fundraiser where we just get people to help us out. The community is so awesome in Shadowrun. They're always helping out their content creators. So we said, let's try and see if we can help keep us going for the first year at least and see where we can get from there. If you go to our website, shadowcasters.network, then you'll see the fundraiser link in a widget sidebar on the right there. Just click on that. It tells you where we are. I think as of right now, we've raised $830, which is it seems pretty amazing to me since just Origins that we've done that. Mm-hmm. I think it might be because people really want. I just recently put on social media that if we got to $1,000 by July 4th, that I would release a hidden audio file of me doing a Shadowrun parody of Adele's Hello that I'm very embarrassed about. And
I want to mention one reward on here is dinner with the Shadowcasters, and you put it at $150, and you've already got 3 out of 5 people who've
what?
you,
Do you remember me at the live show? I said, we put this thing on there, and I didn't even want to say what the price was because I was like, people aren't going to want to do that, are they? But yeah, we've got 3 people.
You need to make several days dinner commitments. So.
No, here's the thing. So people, if you want to do that, if you're going, so I'm glad you brought that up. If you're going to be at Gen Con and you're really excited about Shadowcasters Network like we are, and you want to help us get going, and you're generous enough to do this, then we have a ticket that you can buy to join the Shadowcasters Network people who are also going to be at Gen Con for just a private dinner with us. And we only have 6 spots for that. So if you want to do it, you need to get on there. We've already sold 3 of them.
But if it goes really well, I'm just saying, you should probably put one for like $500. That particularly is a candlelit dinner with Bobby. Like you need to step it up a notch,
Yes!
right? Like,
all right, you know what?
Clearly, this one's going fast.
I will commit to that right now. That I'm going to go on there. I'm going to put it on there. $500 if you want to have a candlelit dinner with Bobby. I'm starting to have like really creepy, scary images in my head.
I think it's great.
Well, you know what? That's a cool idea, though. In some form, if it fills up really fast in the next couple days or something like that, maybe we will need to consider doing some sort of expansion of that. But yeah. Anyway, as of right now, no promises. We've got 6 seats for that. So if you want to get on there, we've already given up 3 of them. Actually, I think it might be 7. But it doesn't matter. Get on there.
And firsthand
check it out.
experience, you guys make great dinner partners. So great dinner conversation.
We had a good night of drinks that last night with Hayes and them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not to hype you guys up, but it's worth it.
Oh God, what are we going to talk about now? There's some other cool things on there. I did mention the Shadowrun Missions online venue that we're creating. It's in testing. There's a lot of like logistics and back-end work that we're doing for the website and to create that and make it possible, because Catalyst has a lot of requirements that we have to fulfill in order to make sure that we can do this in an official way. We've been talking with them. So we're going to be starting after Gen Con. We're going to be, so starting right at the end of August, we're going to be opening it up for a closed beta test. If you want to get involved on the ground floor and help us test that, maybe you will almost definitely get an opportunity to play Shadowrun with some of us during that beta test. So if you're excited about that, anybody who gives us at least $20 to the fundraiser gets instant beta access. Just go on there on the page, make sure you select it as a perk or an incentive, and then you also don't have to select. I feel like everyone has selected incentives, and either that speaks to how great it is or how people think that maybe. I wanted people to know, if you're not interested in any of this and you just want to help us out, you don't have to select any of these incentives. You can just click to give, contribute, and you can choose not to. So just whatever you want to do, any amount, even if you just want to give $5, because the smallest, the beta access incentive is just $20. But if you want to give less than that, just go on there and do it. Beta access, yes. Now, what I'm super duper excited about is July. We just got done with a meeting. Me and Oz just got done with a meeting about this with Damien, scheduling what we're doing on July 21st. And I think we're thinking about starting, I think we can say now, is we're going to start at 4 p.m. Eastern time on July 21st. We're going to be doing a 36 straight hours, 36-hour streamathon, 36 straight hours of streaming content from the Shadowcasters Network and a lot of the different people on the Shadowcasters Network. I'm going to be part of it. Cassie's going to be doing some of it. Damien, Cliff, tons of people. Opti. We're all going to be doing stuff for 36 hours straight. And it's going to be our streamathon. We're going to be trying to drum up, support. There's going to be lots of opportunities for you guys to buy raffle tickets. On the live streamathon, we're also going to be doing giveaways. Some of those giveaways are just going to be for whoever happens to be in the Twitch chat at the time. Some of them, we might say, hey, go out and, buy we'll put up a temporary raffle ticket or something like that, and you can get that. All sorts of cool ways for you guys to give back. I know we're planning. Me and Oz here have been talking a lot about a paranoia game we're going to be doing, and he's got a lot of cool ideas for ways to get people to donate some money to us. There's the eye, the paranoia eye. Yeah.
I am a loyal servant of friend computer. Totally not a commie.
So we're going to be doing that. He's coming up with a lot of cool ways for people to donate money to impact our paranoia game, in really fun, cool ways. If you've never played or watched Paranoia, you should. It's so fun. There's lots of other cool stuff to do on there. Me and Damien are going to screw around with playing some video games, and there's plenty of Shadowrun also going to be played. Most of it is going to be Shadowrun content. So I could talk forever about this. I'm really excited, but we probably should talk about.
We got a show here, Bobby.
Yeah.
We got a show.
So just stay tuned to the Shadowcasters Network on Facebook, on Twitter at SRcaster, and we're talking about. We'll be giving lots of information about that upcoming. Let's do Q&A. So as usual, do we have a bumper for that? Let's play something. How about this?
I need a computer.
All right, so Q&A. We do Q&A on every episode, and we take questions from people who listen to our show, and they like to ask us questions, and we try our best to answer them. If you want to send us questions, you can go over to the website, shadowcasters.network. You can get to... Yeah, you can go there, fill out the contact form, and sorry, it's like the website's on my head a lot. Anyway, shadowcasters.network. There's a contact form there. Fill it out and put in the subject line that it's a Sixth World question, and we'll try our best to answer it. You can also tweet us at Sixth World Podcast. We'll do it. So first question is from Stephen Atkins. He says, hey guys, I live in a small town. After living in big cities for most of my life, we're lucky enough to have a real gaming store here where Magic the Gathering and Warhammer are the biggest games. The only two RPGs available in the store are Pathfinder and DnD 5e, which is no surprise. I've been a runner since 2nd edition and retired when 3rd came out. A couple or so moves later, I find myself here and wanted to start a local group. Since most people here have never even heard of Shadowrun, I'm looking for a couple of good canned runs I can put a new group who have never played before. Of course, there is Fast Food Fight, and I'll use that the first night, but I'm a little lost on what to do next. I really like the idea of using the missions. Would something like Splintered State be a good starting point? Of course, all of this is somewhat conditional on the type of players and how many I can find and yada yada. Thanks for the feedback, Steven, aka Phantom Nomad. What do you think, Cassie?
Yeah. I have not played Splinter State or read through it, though I know a lot of people really like that one.
I have, and I can speak to it in a minute, but go ahead.
You like it? Do you like it? Oh, I would say my two recommended one are Firing Line and Sprawl Wilds. Both of them have really good, they're from 4th to 5th edition, so they're pretty new. They're not in like the Chicago season or anything like that of missions. And they take you to different places. Firing Line has a really cool one where you visit an Altera in Seattle that is fantastic. And it has a little bit of a magical feel to it, even though you don't need to be a mage or anything. And so that's a really good one, especially if you got D&D and Pathfinder people around. And then it also takes you to Bogota, and you can go to New York and stuff. So it's got a good mix in it. Sprawl Wilds kind of similarly will introduce you to a lot of the topics. But how's Splintered State? I'll let you guys answer that one.
I think Splintered State is really fun. The concern I would have is introducing it to a new group. So it's a really hard adventure. It's like it bills itself as being able to be introduced to beginning runners, but I gave it to people who'd never played Shadowrun before, and it was brutal. It's really hard. It's one of these runs where you're doing things one after the other over and over and over again. You basically end up doing 3 runs in a matter of 18 hours or something like that. It's nuts. It's a whirlwind of doing all this stuff, and that's really fun. So I would say if you're a really experienced GM, then yeah, Splintered State could be a lot of fun, but I would caution using it on new people because it is very hard.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it as an intro scenario, but I would use it as a scenario eventually once you have a group.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Because I mean, I'm actually in the middle of running Splintered State. We've kind of left it off for a little while, but I mean, it's taken us 3-4 sessions to really kind of do everything that's there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
combat
things
too
to consider, and a lot of combat, and yeah, it gets deadly. So
Yeah.
I love Splintered State, but
Yeah, I would say
keep that in your back pocket.
Firing Line is kind of especially that one, it seems like a lot of the runs in it are a little bit more like they could be tackled with social or combat. They seem to be a little bit more tame. And Sprawl Wilds, though, will introduce you to a lot of the more hardcore topics of Shadowrun. Like, I think toxic magic becomes involved. The Shadowrun are involved in that one. So you'll meet more of kind of those big bads in there.
Yeah, I've done Sprawl Wilds, and I concur. The runs in there are, I think, much more conducive to a new group. They're really fun and interesting, like Cassie's saying.
Yeah.
Like, all sorts of different aspects of running in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think several of them, like I said, they have kind of more the big bad feel, which again, if you're coming from like a D&D type group or people who've experienced Pathfinder, I think they'll feel it a little more natural to jump right into that versus trying to do a lot of legwork to overly plan a corporate run or something. And definitely break up missions. I know they're meant to be done in a 4-hour block. Don't do it. I ran the first mission in Firing Line. I think I did 5 sessions with it, like a 4-hour session. So definitely break them up. You can easily make them into 2 runs or more.
And also my
Bloody
last...
Business is a good book too.
Yeah, Bloody Business is a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah. The last thing I'd say about that as a piece of advice is if you're dealing with a group and you want to do missions, and they're a new group of people, don't be afraid to use like an entire Shadowrun missions official SRM season as like a campaign run. Because they go through a cohesive kind of storyline usually, and they're all somewhat related usually, and it feels the work's already been done for you, and it feels like you're playing through like this well thought out world, because it is. The writers have done a good job. So,
well, and I think Firing Line and Sprawl Wilds, because they're in that mix of going from 4th to 5th, they will have connections to the world, but they don't feel like you're in Chicago learning people in Chicago and like you're building a whole campaign there, like season 5 or 6 will more do. And the later ones, but especially Sprawl Wilds has reoccurring characters. So if you continue to do mission runs and you get all the way into 5, 6, 7, you're going to see reoccurring names.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope that was helpful. I think that was some good advice all around. What do you guys think? I'm gonna go ahead and skip this next one so we can get into the main topic. You guys think?
You gonna save that one for later?
Maybe I'll answer, unless you think we can answer it quickly.
I can answer it really quick. So basically is if you're a mage and you're sustaining a spell and you go, I think astral projection, not astral sight, does the sustain spell just go poof.
And let me say, Laszlo Zingo asked this question, and he wanted to know.
Yes, sorry. Thank you, Laszlo Zingo, for the question. So I would say that if you astrally project and you've cast or using it depends on where the spell is taking place, right? You cannot, while astrally projected in the astral, affect the physical plane.
Sure.
So if you've got a spell that's on a physical target and it's there, it, in my opinion, would go poof. However, if it's a mana spell, which you can cast and use in the astral, and it's, it could potentially still be active because it's a mana spell. So that's going to be up to your GM, but would be my general ruling.
But it has to be doesn't it have to be a mana spell that's being cast on an astral, so like a dual natured or a holy astral? So if you had a mana spell that's affecting the physical world, it's not going to probably stay because you have to be on that plane to affect it. So if you're just dual natured and doing astral vision, you'd be fine either way. But if you're actually projecting, you can only affect the astral while you're doing that. So
if you're sustaining a spell on yourself, I would say the same thing. If it's a mana spell, then it stays. If it's a physical spell, it goes poof.
Right. And to be clear,
it's really good.
To be clear, this is going to be a very limited scenario. So basically, you will have to be. The question is, it's only going to even be a question if you're casting a mana spell on a dual natured or holy astral entity, and you have to be astrally perceiving to do it already.
Right. But
So if you're
it's gonna be...
so if you're astrally perceiving casting a mana spell on some astral entity, and then you astrally project, then I don't think it says anything concrete in the rules. It depends on how your GM views what type of concentration it takes to go from perception to projection. So.
Yeah, so it could potentially drop off. It's really going to be up to your GM and the situation. But I mean, that's the core rule. There is on the astral, you cannot affect the physical plane. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you cast like astral armor on yourself and then you go into the astral, you'd be fine. I would say the best way to do it would be turn on your astral vision, go dual nature, then cast like astral armor, and then project.
Yeah.
Right, like.
Really, and to kind of like put a cap on this question, really you should just kind of try to adhere to the spirit of what that rule is supposed to be about. The rules are there because you shouldn't be in the astral plane, projected in the astral plane, affecting the physical world. So as long as that's not really happening, then I don't see too much of a problem as long as you're not trying to kind of like violating the spirit of that rule.
Yeah, because that comes up over and over again in the different, like, between manifesting and how spirits work and all that. It just cannot be astral projecting and affecting the physical world.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to move on here. Not that. It's going to be fun when, this is always a blast when me trying to figure out how to podcast after 21 episodes. So let's talk about the main topic today. We were just at Origins, and basically when we go to a convention is the only time I ever get an opportunity to sit down at a table and play with people. Because just the way things go and how busy I am, and I'm usually always GMing anytime that I play Shadowrun because I do it for some shows like the actual play. And so I got to thinking a lot about role-playing in general, and what role-playing, like what kind of social contracts there are about role-playing, how do different people approach role-playing? How do they think about role-playing? Whether it's important, whether it's not important, stuff like that. And so I thought, let's have Oz on to talk about that. Oz is a great role player, but one of the reasons that I wanted him on is because this is probably something he thinks about a lot on Join the Anarchy, Shadowrun Anarchy show, where it's basically just role-playing focused, so. Let me start with an opening question of where do you stand on the importance of role-playing in an RPG, like as opposed to every other, thing?
Is it like opposed to the crunch and all that?
Yeah, where do you place the importance of role-playing?
It depends on the RPG. But I would say that anything that you do mechanically should always have a role-playing reason. For example, you could have, a min-max character, but I would love to have a role-played reason as to why you are min-max. Like, why did you specialize in something? Why do you happen to know XYZ of like the most generic important Shadowrunner knowledge skills, for example, versus, other fun ones like air guitar. I like
that. I agree. I think that players, it always helps a character when players are thinking about the reasons why the things on their sheet are on their sheet. But Cassie, I know that you deal with a lot of like tons of different players on the Emerald Grid, creating characters and
I do interviews, so I don't have to deal with it.
But I guess.
But I used to. I know what you mean.
Right. So I guess the point I'm saying, and you also come from like a Runner Hub background,
Runner Hub, and I do Shadowcast one shots and stuff. So yeah, I still get a player.
My question to you though is, kind of in line with what Oz is saying. When you have, do you make people, like, let's talk about contacts. If everybody's got a list of contacts on their sheet, do you make people come up with a background reason to roleplay justification why they have every single contact? Or do you let people get away with just saying,
oh, yeah. No, you definitely need to tell me a reason why you know someone. And it could just be we met at a bar. It doesn't have to be a good reason. But like, yeah, so even on the Emerald Grid, I had to Shadowrun a player down because he was just rolling, and it costs money to do this. He was willing to put money for it, but he was just rolling to get a fixer in like every country. And I'm like, why? Like, you're not in that country. They're not offering jobs, and you find it weird that you're going to your fixer and be like, hey, can you get me an agent in this other country? It's like, that's kind of like.
And they just wanted to, just in case, have that person there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, I get it. I guess if you just want to spend all that money in there, but I'm gonna look up the rules or investor about degrading loyalty, and you're gonna have to pay these guys every month to stay on their calling list.
Sure. Yeah, I get that, but I think that like sometimes I feel like, but so I guess you're okay with as long as the answer is simply like oh well, we, like you said, we met at a bar. But why do you care about even as simplistic an answer as that? Is it for you as a GM, or is it because you think it's important that the player has thought about it?
I think role-playing is absolutely 100% the most important thing to play tabletop. Otherwise, I'd just be easier playing a video game. Because if you look at it in that sense, right? If you take the role-playing element out of tabletop, you're playing even a shitty video game because nothing's hard-coded, all the rules are vague, and we can't agree on how they work, right? Like,
that's fair.
That would be the worst video game in the world.
So before we go too much further, I don't think we need to define this for our listeners, but let's, when we say role playing, you're talking about like stepping into a role and being like basically almost like acting another character, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to stay in character 100% of the time, but definitely having not even, it doesn't even have to be acting, as long as you've written something, you've thought about this, you've taken the time to create this person and their connections to the world and why they're here, like, develop that.
And even if you haven't come up with something or a reason, you should be ready to kind of give something. Might pop into your head and be like, oh, that's why this is on my sheet.
Oh yeah, I don't think a character can ever be, in my opinion, I mean, I guess if you're a writer and you really focus your medium that way, you could do it, but like I don't think anyone can really know a role-playing character until they've had at least one session, because you need to interact with the people and speak through their voice and do some roles. Then suddenly, like, oh, that's who I am now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no pressure. Let's not pressure everyone to like, come up with a backstory for every single number on a character sheet, especially in Shadowrun. But you want to think deeper with your character. I think that's really what makes your character a unique character versus, just mechanical screw job.
And it's also what makes the best GMs, right? Like if you take the time to ask those questions and be like, who is this person? What do they do? What's your contact's favorite food? Yeah. What do they look like? How are you feeling in this moment? How's your character thinking right now? Like that's a good sign of an amazing GM, which is why I think Funky Town there likes to play on Todd's table and doesn't play with any of the rest of us.
Yeah, Todd. Yeah, to brag on Todd, who's been on the show before. He's in our actual Play As Throwback. Yeah, he does an amazing job with that. He's always and I've tried to do it since playing at his table. Taking his example is always trying to tease out that thoughtfulness about your character and that role playing introspection, and saying, really just saying like, so and so, what exactly is your character going through right now after, this person just got shot in the head right in front of you or something like that, like just tell us what's he thinking right now. And
I think it's also very important for the GM and the player to communicate those things, and one of my favorite sayings is, give the GM all of the rope you can to hang yourself with, because the more loose ends you leave, the more that the GM has to play with your character, the more time your character gets to be in the spotlight. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had players at my tables where I don't really have a good grasp on your backstory and your motivations and what's going on, so I can't push you to the foreground with an interesting story tailored to something that motivates you, that interests you enough to like want to jump in and do something that would typically maybe even be against your desire, your usual MO. But because you have a motivation that I know about, I can like push you into a certain direction and just make your character a little extra deeper.
Right. So we've talked a lot about like role playing and, why it's important to be introspective about your character, or why it's important to, think about the pieces of your character and how the sheet is not just a sheet of numbers, and how it actually, can be expressed in the personality of your character and stuff like that. But I think a question I want to really tease out, and I got to thinking about this a lot because of a conversation that I was part of and largely witnessed to on our Shadowcasters Network Discord. Somebody was asking about the roleplay channel that we have on there, and was asking about, whether or not what we thought about the contradiction, or maybe not contradiction, but the juxtaposition of different players' play styles in a roleplay setting like that. Like if you have a player who's very black trench coat playing in a role-playing channel and just freeform role-playing with another person who's pink mohawk. And the details of the conversation are less important than what it got me thinking about, which is role-playing and the way you role-play, how it affects other people who are role-playing with you. And it got me thinking about a story well, not really a story, but we were talking earlier about playing with Damien and Katie. I played with them at Origins, and they were playing hardcore pink mohawk, guns blazing constantly. I mean, Damien at one point, they killed the Lone Star officers that I was telling you about, and he just decided we could go away, or I could point my flamethrower inside the car and burn it to the ground before we go away. Like that's the style of playing he was doing. And I would argue he wasn't just being ridiculous. He was definitely role-playing his character. That's what his character would do. But he made a comment at some point, it was early on in our mission session, and he like kind of laughed and sort of apologized to everyone and said, "Hey guys, sorry if you don't like pink mohawk, because that's sorry."
But see, that was good on him that he apologized ahead of time and said, "This is my character." And that warning gives a heads up to anyone else at the table to start adjusting their play style, not their play style, but their how their character is going to deal with a character of that nature.
Right.
Yeah, like you have to adjust a strategy a little bit of how you normally deal with stuff.
Right. So so that's a really good sort of preemptive answer to some things that I was thinking about, which is how do you deal with that kind of a player at your table in a setting where you might be playing with someone you've never played before. Like if you've got your home group and you're doing a long-term game that you're planning, we've talked a lot about having that session 0 and getting all that stuff worked out at the beginning. But in a different setting where you're just sitting down with a random group of people, you can butt heads a lot, right? And people going about it. And Cassie, if you were in that situation, how would you go about dealing with that? I know you might not mind it as much, but put yourself in a position of a person who's like, they only love to play black trench coat. How do you deal with Damien and Katie, the flame-throwing Halloweeners?
So because even on the Emerald Grid, we have characters that are made to be pink mohawk. We have a giant reddish-colored troll who has a machine gun for one arm and a grenade launcher for another.
So
right?
Definitely an infiltration character.
Yeah, definitely social infiltration. And then I have another one who literally has a mohawk, who's a crazy fucking taxi driver, right? Named Pickle. So yeah, how do I take characters like that and put them on a table with other characters who are doing legwork like Sparkles and other stuff and make them work? And sometimes me as a GM has to stop and be like, guys, this is a pink mohawk run. Stop trying to do a lot of legwork, right? Just go shoot something. And other times it's like, hey, like this, this threat could get really bad if you're not there. So sometimes as a GM, letting the players know ahead of time, and it's kind of making that social contract before you start. And then how do you just mix them together when you have a peer group and one wants to do one, wants to do the other? You can try to divide the session up a little bit, so if you're doing legwork, maybe the Matrix guy and the face who are trench coaty, you want to go do some of that, and then you throw in some gangers for the Mohawk guys to beat up for a bit. But it can be tough. It's pretty easy to blend them a little bit, but if you got one guy who wants to go straight one way and one the other, it can be hard to meet the middle for all the runs.
And that's a really good idea for GMs, but what about players? Like Oz, you are when we were at Origins, we talked a little bit about improv and improv acting. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons for everybody to learn about role playing from improv acting. Because my thought about that is and this is one of the things that I said to the person on Discord, is that if what you're there to do is role play, then, and that's what we're talking about tonight, right? Role playing. If what you're there to do is role play, then maybe what you want to do is, and this is my approach, is just lean into it, right?
I was gonna say that's usually what I do, right?
Right, and that's what I did.
Release the blimp episode because there's gonna be a blimp, and that's what we were doing, right?
Yes, that's great.
Somebody said a fucking blimp. We're getting a blimp. It's great.
Yeah, and like Cassie said, I don't want to give spoilers, but Cassie recently did that in the actual play. She just went with it in some crazy plan that they had. But that's also what I did at that missions game, right? Like that's kind of the way that I think about things. I built a face character who was really good at facing. But they started doing all that stuff, and I thought, you know what? Let's just go with it. This has a lot of opportunity to be fun. How can I think about my character and how they would react to it, and not try to stop what's happening, but instead try to. That's the improv acting thing, right, Oz? The yes and approach.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so the one important thing is that regardless of what the other characters do at the table, think of how anybody is in a real life situation where all of a sudden one person does something out of the blue against the plan for a very good reason that seems like a good idea to that player or character, but not to everyone else at the table. Well, guess what? It's happened. You can't take it back. And if you play the takesies backsies game, then you're just like extending the conversation, the argument. You're creating actually a space to argue instead of moving it forward and taking it as an opportunity.
Right.
It goes with something that Tina Fey has like 4 different rules of improv, and one of them is there's no mistakes, there's opportunities. So when somebody does something that is just totally wrong, now it's your time to say, okay, now what? Yes, and.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's not like you have to say yes and. It's literally like you have to agree. You have to agree to what's occurred, and then adjust your plans. And I think that's what every fun Shadowrun heist movie is, right? Where you go in with your best well-laid plans, and then something happens because no plan survives first contact with the enemy, and somebody freaks out and chucks a grenade, and now it's time to figure out what to do next.
Right. I
had a situation at my missions table where we planned something for, I want to say, a good 35 minutes with one of the players at my table was very concentrate. Like, this is, he's very methodical about how we're going to approach it. And we should be, because this situation was pretty rough. And then just as we enter the threshold of this like boss room, it's like, another player is like, I chuck a grenade, which would have thrown everything into like utter chaos, and without getting into spoilers, to a point where like we could have all died. Right. And so then there was like this whole argument for, I want to say, like 15-20 minutes, where it was, well, no, he wouldn't have had his grenades because I would have taken them away from him because I was the one in charge of setting the charges. And,
I hate those conversations.
Like, exactly. And your takesies backsies.
Yeah.
Instead, chuck the grenade and run. Because
right.
what you have just done is screwed everything. Let's go with it. Have fun. But the problem is, this player spent 35 minutes planning something.
Yes.
And what you've done by throwing the grenade is denied that person's execution of that plan.
And that's where and that's where I think it's a little bit more delicate, and you have to, think a little bit more than just those improv rules, right? Because if you're just doing pure role playing, like this person in the Discord chat I was talking about, we have a channel there where people just freeform role play, and it's like improv there because there's no consequences to what's actually happening, right? You're just in there chatting. So the yes and, or either keep going and just go with the flow kind of mentality is great. But like you are about to talk about or implying here, when you're playing Shadowrun, sometimes you invest a lot of time in planning to execute a run in a certain way, or an adventure, or whatever it is. Any game that you're playing, you could invest a lot of time to do that. And I think sometimes you're in a situation where you might feel like you have been lied to or betrayed as a player, because why did everybody let you go through this if they were just going to screw it,
Don't let them go through it, because it always ends up being not what you think. My favorite runs as a GM is people will start doing legwork and they make phone calls, and I will give them my security plan. And whatever they usually came up with, it may get them in the door, but then it's all bets are off. We're in combat now, bullets are flying, we've forgotten what we were here to do.
No plan survives first contact, and that's how it should go. But here's the argument I can say. If you've spent, like in this case, all that time formulating a plan, and then the player basically chucks the plan out the window, they weren't listening. They weren't listening to the plan, because we could have continued the plan.
Sure.
Listening is very important. When you're at a table, pay attention to what's going on, and if you're going to forget, jot down notes. That's why you have a notepad. That's why it's not improv theater, it's role playing.
I mean,
sure.
Did they forget, or did they do it
They actually
anyway?
totally did forget.
Oh, okay.
They totally forgot. They didn't realize that they were about to cause an implosion on top of us, even though it was stated 5 or 6 times. And when we brought that point up, it was like, huh? Now, kudos to him for wanting something to happen, because I was also of the opinion that we're planning for way too long and we only have an hour left of game time. But yeah, you weren't listening, and listening is also one of the cardinal rules of improv, as well as just theater and any kind of life communicating with people. You need to listen. So if you're not paying attention to what's going on at the table, then you're not responding appropriately, and you're not building on each other's foundations.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll play devil's advocate though. If you sit there and make me listen, or if you sit there and plan for 30 minutes, I will have stopped listening. And that's usually why I play airheaded characters who come and go, what? Wait, are you talking to me? What? Because after a while, a good plan, don't get me wrong, a good plan is okay, but you need to seriously keep it to 15 minutes, especially in a missions, if not less. Jot down, so we're going, and roll with it, because
Agreed.
you don't have a lot of time to begin with, and you're gonna have bored people like me who want to chuck a grenade then, because we haven't done shit in 30 minutes and I'm bored. Right?
So this is where the GM kind of comes in.
Sure,
and one of the GM's best tools is paranoia, where if the legwork is going too long, start dropping hints that, hey, something, you're being watched, or, have something happen all of a sudden that just throws the plans oh shit, we have to stop planning. Time's running low, or things might be occurring that are starting, the longer that we plan, the more that other people are also planning against us.
It can be hard to do in a missions, but you can also progress time. Make note that you started planning at 8 p.m. It's now 10. We've been sitting here for 2 hours planning, even if it's only been 20 minutes in game, right?
Exactly.
Sorry to cut you off.
Oh yeah, no, but it's true. Yeah. That's another thing. Time is always of the essence, especially in a Shadowrun. So, I mean, you could really argue that for anything, but especially in a Shadowrun, the clock is always ticking. And it's hard to remember that the clock is always ticking when every action is 3 seconds, or many actions can happen in 3 seconds in the game. But that's something they have to reconcile. On the flip side, paranoia is, are you sure you want to do that for the pink mohawky characters that are doing something that is just not a good idea?
Yeah.
Right.
And definitely
or they do it, and then it's well.
Another thing
okay,
you definitely a GM should always do is when you have those moments that are going to cause a great deal of havoc and potentially ruin the game for the people, is step in a little bit and and pause time, right? And be like, okay, you see that character has a grenade in their hand and they're doing this, and give time for those other people to rush and be like, what the hell are you doing? Stop it!
That's
like
true.
pause it for a moment and let them have a chance to react to whatever is going on.
I was reading something interesting though, and it's going to run devil's advocate to what you just said, and I'd love to discuss it. There was an example of someone chucking a grenade or about to like punch somebody in a bar that they should not be punching. There's two ways you can handle it. One is someone holds the person's fist back and says no, which effectively stops the action right there. It stops the player from doing what they want to do. Or you let the punch happen, you let the grenade get chucked, and then you deal with what happened. And what that does is it's moving the story forward as opposed to stopping it.
Right.
That's true. But like I said, like the thing is, then it's whether or not, while it might be fun, you've ruined kind of this experience you had for somebody else. They spent 30 minutes, right? So.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
you can go either way on that.
And to bring it back about role play, because that's an important point to think about when you are role playing with anybody. Really, is to role play considerately, and that I think that actually brings me to a question that I jotted down here, and I think it might be the last question that I discuss with you guys, and then we'll move things forward. Is how do you guys feel about role play and being dedicated to that role play at the expense of like other things like mission success or other people's fun? How about that person who says, well, that's what my character would do, like
the wang rod.
Yeah. right Yeah. What do you guys think about that person? Is adhesion to your character and that role play more important, or is it better to sacrifice maybe those things about your character just a little bit, tweak it just a little bit to make sure that everybody else is having fun? I feel like I've framed the question in a way that there's only one answer, but
got it. No, yeah. I think the trust amongst your group is a big part of that, right? If I'm doing stuff on the Emerald Grid, I'll have players PvP with each other and whatnot, but I'm not going to do that at a missions table. I'm not going to build the character who might sabotage a run typically at a missions play, because I'm playing with strangers and I don't know who these people are and I want people to have fun. So I'm going to build something more friendly most of the time, or at least play something more friendly. But.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, yes, always think what would my character do, but then also think what else would my character do, because
that's a nice way to put it. Yeah,
your first instinct is not always the right one. Remember, you are also a player at a table, and like what your character is doing is your choice, not the character's. You can think of alternate ways of dealing with a situation. I mean, when you're in a situation in real life, you might stop yourself from doing something you would typically do because you realize, hey, there's XYZ factors that are also going to like take me in a direction I don't want to be in. And if you can tell that the people at the table don't want to be in that situation, again, this comes down to listening. Listen to what the other people are giving you, both verbally and even nonverbal cues. If people are looking like they're not having fun with what you're doing, stop and let them take over or come up with another solution that is still in character. You're not just a one-dimensional person.
That's an excellent point.
You can go against your own type. And if you go against your own type, you add nuance to your character.
If it is going to be something that's going to be really destructive to the table, stop the game for a minute and say out of character, hey, my character would do this. Are you okay with that? To make sure there's no one who's really emotionally invested in their plan, right? It's willing to roll with
and that's another really excellent point, Cassie. And I'll end the discussion by saying something that I have said a lot in the past, which is that once you start playing a role-playing game like Shadowrun or D&D or something like that, it's like you are playing a game. You're not just your character playing with those other characters. You are a person playing with other people. Like, you guys can talk about the game that you're playing, and like, those types of discussions are sometimes really important. So
Find a handler if you're an angry street Sam too. Talk to get your face. Talk to the face and be like, I'm gonna do what you tell me to do.
That's the other thing.
That could be a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, because especially in Shadowrun, there's a lot of character archetypes that don't get a lot of playtime through some of the more action-packed stuff, like faces and deckers and stuff. And usually faces and deckers are the people that are like the voices of wisdom, usually at a table. So, bring them to the forefront and ask them, what do you think I should do? Same thing when you're on the legwork side of things. See how you can bring in the people that aren't talking, ask them for their opinions, or give them a task to handle. Like, maybe, hey, would you mind roughing up this person for me? Mm-hmm. Or whatever. I mean, there's ways to involve each other. And when someone's not getting spotlight, your job, remember, this is the other thing. Everybody at the table is a supporting role for each other, right? Even the GM is a supporting role. Like, nobody should be considered the star. So, and the job of a supporting role is to support everyone else at the table, because everyone's just as important as you. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, pay attention, help other people shine. If you're helping other people shine, people A, want to play with you again, but then B, like, you're bringing them into the fold, and you're all working together as a cohesive team.
Yep. I will cap that with something that Cassie said many times before, which is a quote from, I don't know who, someone else, but it's be a fan of your, what do you say, Cassie? Be a fan of your other. You
can say be a fan of the other players, or we often say role play with people, not at people.
That's a good way to put it. Right, good way to put it. So yeah. Well, that sound means that we are at the end of the episode, and we're about to go into, guys, Twitch chat. Stick around. We're gonna have some talk in the after party, and if you've got some questions for Oz or for us about role playing, about anything, start thinking about those questions. We like to answer more questions and talk to the chat a little bit after the show is done recording. So but podcast listeners, thank you guys for listening to the show. I had a great time talking to you, Oz, about role-playing. I really like these sort of like meta-level philosophical discussions, like introspective sort of like topics.
Yeah, it's our second time being like super deep about stuff. It's cool. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Our next episode, I don't even think I've told Cassie. Well, I don't know what the topic is going to be yet, but I've been talking to RJ Thomas, one of the Catalyst.
Ooh, yeah, I was going to mention we should talk to RJ.
Yeah, I've been talking to him.
He's on it.
One of the freelancers for Shadowrun. He's one of the more, I think, prolific ones. He's done a lot of stuff, we haven't had him on the show yet. And so I told him I'd seen him at Origins and said, hey, we need to have you on the show. So he's going to be on our next episode. We're still figuring out what we're going to talk about. That Sealy Court episode. If you were listening to the in the Twitch chat before the show started,
we haven't forgotten about it.
That's have not.
It's gonna happen.
It's coming, and it's going to be better than we hoped it would be. Actually, I think. Hopefully, maybe I shouldn't talk it up so much.
It will be. It will be.
Cassie is there. Oh well, Oz first. Always give our guests an opportunity to plug their own stuff. Anything you want to plug in particular?
I mean, you plugged me very well with Join the Anarchy, but yeah. So Join the Anarchy. Watch us every other Monday on Twitch and join us and affect our run. We are completely improvised. We have no idea where we're going, except for the backstory that we make as we go along. So it's all fair game. And Tales from the Stuffer Shack. Cassie and I are on that, so definitely give that a listen. That should be dropping soon. So it's like Clerks meets, like the movie Clerks meets Shadowrun Stuffer Shack.
Right.
It's
we play ordinary people in Shadowrun.
Well, ordinary.
Ordinary, yeah.
But, yeah.
Quotation marks.
Right.
Yeah.
Cassie, what do you got to plug today?
I'm going to plug something that I have nothing actually to do with, but I think it's cool. There is another subreddit Shadowrun community out there that's looking for players and posting games for people to do pick up games and play. It's called Shadowhaven.
Cool.
So go to, reddit.com/r/Shadowhaven. Our good friend of the show, Z-Trip, is a big part of that, and it's been helping them with their carriage in. So go check that out if you want to play Shadowrun for free online.
Amazing. Z-Trip's been on the show with us. I think that's Justin Fenton. He's been on the show with us, and yeah, check it out. I just love that there's so many of these Shadowrun play communities that just keep popping up. It's more Shadowrun for people, so that's awesome. I will, I guess, and of course mention Shadowcasters Network. We're getting that going. Check out our fundraiser, of course. If you go to the Shadowcasters Network website, shadowcasters.network, we have a store, actually. I didn't mention this before, and you can get a Sixth World Podcast hat.
We just see your hand. Left to the left.
The people on the stream can see.
That's a different. That's a different.
You have a different special camera that's not as good.
I forget I have a different camera. Yeah.
Here, do you guys want to see it? I'll let you guys see it.
He's showing you the hats. I didn't even give you one while I was at Origins. I should probably pick one up at Gen Con.
Right. So the
limited edition.
No, you go onto the website if you want one. Maybe I should say it's a limited edition. Act now.
You just bring me one to Gen Con so I can get it there.
You can order it and pay shipping and handling. No, we don't have them here. I only have this one.
They're made as ordered.
Yeah, we have a fulfillment company that handles it for us.
All right.
So yeah. Anyway, there's not just Six World Podcast. There's GM Screen T-shirts, Arcology Podcast T-shirts, Violent Life T-shirts. There's a Neo-Anarchist T-shirt. There will be, because I didn't say this earlier, Oz and Join the Anarchy is our first partnered show with the Shadowcasters Network. There will hopefully soon be Join the Anarchy stuff that you can get to. So get on there and buy some stuff from us because it's cool. Yeah.
Oh, that Violent Life shirt actually is pretty bitchin'.
It's my favorite of all the stuff that we have. So check it out. Yeah.
Complex action shirt, really cute.
I thought it was cute. I like it.
Yeah.
So check those out at the store, Shadowcasters. Again, shadowcasters.network. If you want to contact us at the show, we're taking things from the contact form on the Shadowcasters Network site now. So go to shadowcasters.network, click on the contact form. You can also email us at theshow@sixworldpodcast.com. And we're on Twitter at the number 6 World Podcast. Our intro music or our outro music that you're about to hear was done by Johnny Nuclear and the Meltdowns. Our logo artwork is by David McDermott. You can find him at sixthworlddesigns.tumblr.com. And from me, from Cassie, and from Oz, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. When the days have gone dark and the sky's turning gray, everybody in the world, they're just staying enslaved to technology's machines. We just feast for the screen, lost in reality, can't find peace in